Hey guys, Dark Skeleton here, and today I wanted to commentate a little bit over some constructed play I was doing. Now, you'll notice I'm like only rank 17 or something like that right here. I haven't really been playing ranked play this season, so my ranking's pretty low. But I decided to go ahead and throw together a token Druid deck. It's a deck I like to play because out of nowhere it can do a lot of damage. If you leave even one or two minions on the field against a token Druid, it is just ridiculous what you can pull off with a Savage Roar, going from the opponent having basically full health to just about nothing. Now you'll notice right away from my hand that I have a Mark of the Wild in there, and I probably should have mulliganed that hand, at least the Druid of the Claw. I don't know what I was thinking. But I am running two Marks of the Wild and also a Soul of the Forest with this token Druid deck, which is definitely not exactly standard. Now, the person I'm going up against is a Shaman. You would expect most Shaman decks to basically be the same. Your double Fire Elementals, double Hexes, Lightning Storms. He's got most of that. But some of his cards are not exactly standard, and you'll see later on that he's actually a pretty aggressive Shaman. I was caught pretty off guard from this, and he almost had me by the end of the game, because he was able to shut down my token play pretty well, controlling my board, and then when he had the field, he actually has a Bloodlust, which is, it's a card that actually a few people are starting to run every now and then. It's kind of a gotcha, win the game even more card. But usually people just use Flame Tongue Totems and that's it. Now he had a pretty good start there, being able to get out an Unbound Elemental and throwing down Feral Spirits for a strong early game board presence. And I'm effectively having to just trade my guys in here, not really being able to target the guy I want, which of course is the Unbound Elemental. Not that I had anything to run into it, but if I could have used Mark of the Wild and hit the Unbound Elemental, I would have probably preferred to take it out sooner rather than later. So I do have a very difficult start here. He even gets the Lightning Bolt for another overload on that Unbound Elemental. And from this point, I'm basically looking at my hand and I'm like, yeah, I don't really have many dudes to play. I guess I just have to throw out the Druid of the Claw, which is fine. Probably having that card was a key factor in not dying this game, because the bears are pretty tanky. Just thank goodness not too many people are running Black Knights. He couldn't have played it there, but I think I taunted up several creatures this game, and if he had a Black Knight to get the tempo on me, that would have definitely been it for me. So, in my hand right now, you can see I have the Soul of the Forest. It does come into play a little bit later on, where I get a bunch of new dudes. You can combo it pretty well with the, Force of Nature, in order to get 2/2s on the field. It's really weak to AoE, though. Right there I was forced to use one of my Souls of the Forest to clear the board and try to protect my taunt creature. Obviously, I'm just going to leave the 0/2 egg on the field and not give him what he wants. I have no idea why this guy's running Ancestral Healing. Probably just kind of a mistake of card choices, and that's why he's ranked 17 and not 5. Drawing into the second Force of Nature is a pretty big deal, as it's one of the key components to this token Druid deck, as it is most token Druid decks. You want that Force of Nature Savage Roar combo. Obviously, I'm sure everybody knows about that by now. Pretty good swipe there. Notably, did not take the egg out, which is a very good thing for me. I'm not going to run into it, obviously, because I don't want a 4/4 Nerubian on the board. So I just kind of play for time here, throw out a Power of the Wild as a Panther, which is kind of regrettable, but sometimes you have to do stuff like that. And crazily enough, this guy has a Bloody Forked Lightning, of all things. It's not an entirely terrible card. It might not be optimal. I mean, there are way better Shaman cards, Lightning Storm, for example. But it did catch me off guard there, and in that key instant, it actually really gave him some major pressure on me. But since his field is basically a bunch of zero-cost minions, I didn't try to play for protecting myself with a heal. I was just like, oh, I'm safe, I can go for card draw. He surprises me with that Bloodlust pretty well, kills my 5/5 creature. Luckily, he was at least in the way to take some of the damage. I'm not completely dead yet, but if he did have another Bloodlust, of course, no one's going to run 2 Bloodlusts. I'd probably be pretty screwed. So I got to throw up some taunts here. I'm not even sure using Mark of the Wild there was really the right play. And I think at this point I was thinking that for some reason he had already used both Lightning Storms, But as you'll see here in a second, he not only throws down a Lightning Storm, but also a Gadget Sand Auctioneer, which is pretty crazy. You don't see that in Shaman too often. And that puts me in trouble, especially since he rolls high on the 3-4 Nerubian, or spiders, whatever they're called, haunted creepers. And here, like, my hand is basically, I have a hand of removal. I noticed that a few things on his creature, on his board, are multiples of 2 in terms of the HP they have, and I still have one guy on the field. So I go for the Soul of the Forest Force of Nature combo, which actually works out pretty good here in theory. I'm really hesitant to decide whether I want to trade in the 1-1 token, because that means my board's completely open to AoE. And actually, now that I think about it, that was the first Lightning Storm, not even the second one. So this is when he hits me with the second one, and I'm like, oh my god, why? He gets 4-for-1 value out of that. Soul of the Forest, you know, it would have been pretty good there. I would have had 4 dudes, but AoE, yeah, it'll get you. Of course, he has the BM. Well, that's not so much BM. It's an honest, yeah, I feel bad for you, but, you know, Lightning Storm happens. And I'm actually surprised he hasn't played a Hex yet, because obviously the two generally biggest creatures are going to be those Ancients of Lore. He didn't Hex the one I played. He didn't Hex either of them. And I'm like, okay, if he has Hex, there's no bloody way he's not going to Hex Cenarius. And he actually doesn't. So I'm like, this Shaman doesn't play Hex. This Shaman doesn't play Hex. What's he thinking? I mean, Hex is probably top 1 or 2 Shaman cards of all time. Fire Elemental is really up there, but Hex, I consider that to be one of the best, maybe the best, spell removal cards in the game. Yeah, I'd say it's slightly better than Polymorph, though 1 mana difference is a pretty big deal. Not that I'm a pro and can make those calls, but I think pretty much everyone would agree with me. If you're wrong, tell me. I mean, I don't see any real downsides to Hex, other than if you're forced to use it on like a 1-1, then yeah, it's bad value, but if you have to Hex a 1-1, I think you have bigger problems to worry about. So, as you saw in the last turn, I held on to my Keeper of the Grove because I didn't want to waste his Battle Cry. I use it this turn to take out his Totem. I think that was a fine play, because I'm not going to be rushing him down too soon anyway. Drawing into the Oozes is pretty good for me, though, because I do have the Savage Roar, which means I can not do the combo, but I can buff up a lot of dudes and make some good trades here. And I believe on this turn, he plays some pretty big threats that I need to take care of. So right now, he's not only going to get the Taunt Totem, which is somewhat lucky, I'd say, but he's also going to drop a Flame Tongue Totem and a a Frostwolf Warlord, that's right. It's too bad I don't have a big Game Hunter. That would have been a good target for that. Now here I have a pretty critical decision. Do I draw the Ancient of Lore for cards, or do I play it for healing? And I know I can clear everything on this field right now. So I'm thinking, okay, this is an aggressive Shaman. He only has 1 card in hand. He probably doesn't have any direct damage. So I'm going to go for cards and try to just control him until he's dead. That Savage Roar really saved my ass here, making those little token guys get a big Frostwolf Warlord down. Another card that's actually kind of surprising for Shaman. I mean, less so than other classes. It makes sense in Shaman because you have all those totems to make the Frostwolf better. But generally, that gets replaced pretty quickly by better cards if you have them. Maybe this guy just didn't have them, or for some reason thought that other cards were not as good as a Frostwolf Warlord. Although he did have the double Lightning Storm, so I imagine he's got some rares and some epics at the very least. Now, at this point, I have a great token field, and I think I've used up all my Savage Roars and Force of Natures, definitely the 2 Force of Natures. But really, it doesn't matter here, because an aggressive Shaman that can't be aggressive is basically a sitting duck. He hexes the 5/5, which I guess is the second best target in my deck. Surprising me at this point that he had a Hex all along in his deck, but just never had one in his hand to Hex my Cenarius or Hex my first Ancient of Lore. At this point, it's basically cleanup. I can just bop his totems as he sends them out. I'm hesitant to throw out the Violet Teacher, though, just in case for some reason he's able to clear my field. I want to make sure I have at least something to throw back on the board, but I figure his AoEs are down. There's not really that much that a Shaman can do against this board anymore. and I can get lethal most likely in the next turn if I just play the Violet Teacher, so I do. He basically GG's here, throws out the Chicken Creator, the Goblin Mechatork. It's not even a legendary one, that's pretty interesting. Can you get the normal Goblin Mechatork from a booster pack? Because, I mean, I got it from the beta. I'm not sure about that. I guess you probably can. I don't imagine anyone would craft it. And, yeah, that's GG. So that Shaman, he threw me off pretty well. I didn't expect Bloodlust, and I assumed that he would be playing much more standard Shaman cards. So it was a close game. He almost had me, but because he didn't have me and I was able to restabilize, I was able to finish him off in the end. So I've got to ask, did you find it enjoyable or educational to watch? Or would you prefer that I do this with Facecam, possibly taking clips from a live stream? Or was this good for you? Do you want me to do more? Just let me know what you think in the comments down below. I've been Dark Skeleton. I'll see you all next time.